And welcome back to track one at the Software Circus. I'm here with Charity Majors. Charity, how are you doing?
Ah, I'm here and I have Wi-Fi. I think my third Wi-Fi in an hour, so keep your fingers crossed. But I also have a crown, so.
The last time we were close to a stage together was at Serverless Con in Brooklyn, 2016. I don't know if you,
Oh wow, the one where I came and trolled everybody.
yeah, well, there was that. Also, it was like 200 degrees inside that building. It was
Yeah,
unexpected
it really
walking
was.
in. Anyway, lovely to see you in a stage setting
Thank
again.
you.
So
Yeah, nice to
Charity's
see
going to be talking about the socio-technical path to high-performing teams. Before we get into that, a very quick shout out for our sponsors who've made all of this possible. We've got Packet, Container Solutions, Rancher, OfferZen, the CNCF, Honeycomb, Aqua Security, Kinfolk, Giant Swarm, and CloudBees. All right, now there's one thing. I don't know if you've seen any of the other talks, but before we can do this officially, I need to play you my canned applause, so it feels like you're actually coming onto a real stage.
Oh, lovely. I'm gonna
There you
change my
go.
background too. I just realized I have a little troll self in the corner, so
All right.
you do you, I'll do me.
Right. There we go. All right. Already made.
No!
Take it away.
Amazing. I feel so seen and appreciated. Great robots. Um, okay, that's a little obnoxious, having my little self in the corner, but I don't seem to be able to switch it without stopping screen sharing, and you're all going to be looking at slides anyway, so it's fine. Hi, I'm Charity Majors, and I want to talk about the technical path to high-performing teams and why it starts with observability. Um, I've got 30 minutes, technically, I think, yikes, 25. And this is like a 3-hour long rant, but I think it's gonna be fun. So for those of you who don't know me, and does my screen share, do you see the slides or do you see it all covered by everyone's faces and the controllers or everything? Is that,
No,
I'm
no,
just gonna assume
yeah,
that's okay.
you see it. You got it.
Okay, still a newbie when it comes to this whole pandemic presentation thing. So I am a co-founder and CTO of a company called Honeycomb, which does observability. Um, I also the co-author of Database Reliability Engineering. Uh, if you happen to have this book, you probably notice that the cover is broken. It has a horse on it because O'Reilly won't let you have mystical creatures on the cover. If you want a unicorn sticker to fix it, all you need to do is DM me on Twitter and I will give them out. I want to start by talking about teams, and this is pretty basic, but I actually, like, what do you think of when you think of a team? Um, uh, Teams are basically the fundamental building block of how we build and ship software. A lot of us think of, individuals as being, it's our skills or whatever, but I like individuals. Teams are like RAID for humans, right? They take care of failover and reliability and testing and they make sure that it, you shouldn't have to care if any person in the company is going out for vacation or if somebody leaves and somebody comes because their team takes care of delivering um, the deliverables that they committed to, right? It's the building block by which we organize ourselves and coordinate and scale our labor. I'm a little thrown off here. I don't have a second monitor, so I can't see my notes and I can't see what slides are coming up. So we're really winging it here. I'm sure it's fine. Is this okay? It's kind of, yeah. Okay, it's in like, I swear I practiced this, but it was on a dual monitor. This is tripping me out a little. Okay, so many of you are probably engineers. Everyone has aspirations for their career, right? You want to be a tech lead. You want to get really good at some piece of software or another. I kind of love doing career counseling. And so, I'm always talking to people like, what do you want out of your next job? And I don't think that I've ever heard anyone say the answer that I think is the number one most important, the highest impact answer that you can give, which is, I want to join a high performing team. The teams that you join will define your career more than anything else, more than what technology you work on, more than your individual skill level, more than, we ship software at the rate of the team, which means that if you're a high performer and you join a slow team, you you fall to their level, right? And I've seen over and over that, engineers who are not considered, particularly elite, they join an elite team and within 6 months, they're keeping up. Teams teams are everything. I've been incredibly lucky in the teams that I've had, especially like the first job that I had out of college was at Linden Lab. I was there for 5.5 years. I didn't know how good I had it at the time until I went to a couple other jobs. And, you know, bad jobs can be bad in so many different ways. I've had jobs that bore absolutely no resemblance to each other, right? Except that they made me feel the same way. They made me feel like it wasn't worth going to work. The closest I've ever gotten to burned out was at a company where I worked like an hour and a half a day, and they thought I was amazing because I was converting like Word documents and how to set up clusters into Puppet recipes. It was so depressing. Likewise, like the teams that you're working on where it's a good fit, where it's a culture fit, where everything's like firing all cylinders, like this is where we get to the part of work that, whether you're a workaholic or not, like I think that we all want the same things out of work, which is autonomy, mastery, and meaning, according to Dan Pink, which I believe because it's true for me. Like a lot of the answers that I hear when I ask people like, what kind of team do you want to join, are around, I don't want to work with assholes. Great answer. I want to learn new things. I want to like not be woken up 5 times a night. All perfectly reasonable things. But a high performing team isn't just pleasant to work on, right? They set a high bar for themselves and they hit it. Now, we've kind of all been wandering in the wilderness, like, how my team's the greatest, my team's great, until, God bless them, Jez Humble and Nicole Forsgren and Gene Kim went and wrote this book called Accelerate. If you haven't read it, I'm assuming like half of you have read it. If you haven't read it, you probably should. You should definitely read the yearly DORA reports, because in the DevOps yearly research, I think it's what it's called, DORA reports. You can find it by Googling. They basically did a lot of research and they realized you can boil down how high performing a team is to 4 metrics. How often do you deploy? How long does it take for your code to go live? How many of your deploys fail? And how long does it take to restore service after an outage? And so like I think every engineering manager should be graphing these, like paying close attention to these and like measuring yourself and your own performance on these metrics. I would add a 5th, which is just how often do your people get interrupted outside of work hours? Because this really grinds a team down like nothing else. And if you've been watching these reports year over year, there is quite a gap between, the elite team. I kind of hate the term elite. I prefer excellent, but whatever. The high performing teams and, the mid and low, like just look at those numbers. Like that's insane, right? Like, sorry, what was that? I can't see the thing is over it, but it's like 6 months. Every 6 months is a deployment. Like that's, you can see how this is massively life impacting. Doesn't matter how good doesn't matter how good you are at writing algorithms and data structures. If you're on a team that ships once every 6 months, you're limited. So interestingly, I think this might be the most interesting part, right? You look at the 2018 numbers and you look at the 2019 numbers and they're diverging, right? Like the bottom 50% is getting worse and the top 50% is like reaching liftoff, right? They're getting way better. Another piece of data, the Stripe developer report. They pulled tens of thousands of developers and they asked them what they spend their time on. And the answer would shock you if it was not shocking, which is that like half of our work week we spend doing bullshit. Shit that does not move the business forward, that does not create anything new of value. It's just like trying to figure out what to build or trying to build the shit that you have to build to get to the shit that you need to build, or fixing the build pipelines, or fixing the wrong thing. It's exhausting. Like, that's a big number. And worse yet, we see that number and we're like, yeah, that sounds about right. We're just like, this must be what it's like to deploy software, to build and deploy software. That seems okay. It's not okay. It is so not okay. It's so not okay. And it's not inevitable. It's not necessary. It's not baked into the laws of the universe. And like, I almost feel like the biggest obstacle that we have to improving our lives is just the acceptance of the status quo. Oh yeah, half my life is spent on bullshit that makes me want to kill myself and everyone around me. No big. Anyway, those numbers are serious shit, right? It really pays off to be on a high-performing team. 600 times faster to recover from outages. That's a lot of wasted time. That's a lot of time you could have spent learning things or testing your hypotheses. Instead, you're just cleaning the kitchen. And what happens when an engineer from, how many of you have ever been a team, hired someone, Google, the first around Google, hello, visible people. You don't take it with you. A lot of work went into the apparatus, the infrastructure, the everything that propped you up and made you that productive at Google. An elite engineer who joins a more or less, take 10%, and vice versa. Like we like to, get all, engineering interviews are notorious for screening people on shit that they could look up. Sorry, I'm cursing a lot. I blame the Wi-Fi. We individually. Hello, network. You tend to rise or fall to match the productivity of the team that you join. This is why it's so important to join a high-performing team, so you can spend more of your time doing the awesome stuff, right? Like, who is going to be the better engineer after a year? I wonder. And you compound that year over year, right? So, of course, the next question is, how do we build high-performing teams? And sadly, in Silicon Valley, the default answer seems to be just hire a lot of, the best engineers. Or worse, it can get worse. Or the answer is just hire the engineers with the best pedigree. Please don't. It doesn't work that way. It's not about the individuals. I hope my Wi-Fi is working because I am frozen to myself. I'm just gonna trust that it's okay.
Hey, Chad, you're a little bit choppy, but it seems to be better again now.
Okay. If I turn my video off, will it turn off the screen share too?
Let's find out.
Let's find out. Let's see. Oh man, it won't. My mouse is hidden. Let's see if I can get it down. Oh man. Oh, there it was.
No rush. We'll get through it.
I apologize for the AV issues. Thank you for being
It's the
so
last
nice.
talk of the day. It's the best talk to have AV issues in.
That is true. That's a true fact. Okay. All right. I honestly don't know how to just hitting escape because I don't have a mouse. Okay, cool. So I stopped screen share. Stop video. And now go back to screen share. Can you still see my slides?
Yeah, if you just maximize them, I think we're good.
Oh, cool. Okay. Play. I'm getting a beach ball. 1 second. All right. Now do we have slides?
We do. There we
Hooray.
go. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So how do we build a high-performing team? Well, you start by hiring people who share your team's values because you hire people who share your team's values, and this is the real labor of managers, right? It's constructing and curating these socio-technical feedback loops. And socio-technical is definitely my favorite new word. And I love it because you don't even have to explain it, right? It explains what it is, and it is so profound, right? Like, this is what we do all day. We build, the debate in DevOps about, right? Tools, your tools influence what you do. What you do influences your tools, and like ultimately, it influences who you are and who you become. And the point of this is to encourage and develop to grow ownership for the engineers who are writing the code over the full software lifecycle. Instrument, observe, iterate, prerequisite. You can try to get better at your team performance without having observability, but it's kind of like trying to drive down the freeway with your glasses without your glasses on. You need data, or else you're just guessing in the dark. Sociotechnical. It's technology is some of the ways that social groups construct the material objects of their civilizations. Oh, I love that phrase, material objects of their civilizations. The things made are socially constructed just as much as technically constructed. If you change the tools you use, you can change how we behave and even who we are. This is really exciting. Like, and if you doubt me, imagine this. Imagine that, we work at the same company together, and I write a job so that it watches, and anytime your test fails, it sends an email to the entire company with your name in the subject saying, so-and-so wrote a failing test, and then it pages your manager in the middle of the night. It's going to modify your behavior in a few ways. This is the canonical, socio-technical picture, a graph from Richard Cook, the amazing doctor / engineering, what would you call him? Like fairy of knowledge or something, thought fairy. I don't know. Above the line, you've got, why you're doing what you're doing, your reason for doing something, why you're going to deploy something, right? Then you've got your practices, which is like how you push the code out. And then your tools below the line are, artifacts. So feedback loops, right? Like, I feel like the true job of a manager, if you say that a manager's job is people, right? Like tech leads, your job is like managing the tech. Human managers, your job is managing the humans. I believe that what this really means is, yeah, you should like have career conversations with them and everything, but what you should spend your time thinking about is these feedback loops, because they are powerful. Every single engineering org out there has a dual mandate, right? It is to have happy customers and happy teams. And anybody who tries to focus on one to the exclusion of the other misses the point, because they are intimately entwined. Amazon, famously like all about obsessed with the customer. But your customers are not going to get good service if your systems are being run by a bunch of worn out, frazzled, miserable, burned out people. There we go. Whoop. Whoa. Everybody in the world is watching Netflix right now. Fuckers. It's taking my bandwidth. Okay, there we go. Okay. Here's an example of a terrible loop, right? A terrible feedback loop. You're writing code. You merge to be the one to pull the trigger and deploy all that crap at once. So everybody kind of ignores it, hope somebody else will take responsibility for it. Well, eventually someone's going to have to deploy, right? So somebody deploys. It maybe has a few days worth of merges. Well, it not unsurprisingly fails and takes down the site, pages on call. Now on call, very likely is not even the same person who is deploying, who knows that they just triggered the problem. The deploys is, probably, okay, let's get back to the last known good build. Now, how are we going to find the problem in this like several days worth of deploys? Well, start bisecting and like building new artifacts and rolling them out one by one. This is going to be pretty time consuming. So she's not that happy about it. And she starts bitching about how much being on call sucks and how much deploying your own code sucks and how much service ownership sucks. And how much. Okay, here's an example of a virtuous loop, right? Oh, and by the way, in the last one, how many engineering days worth do you think were wasted? How many engineering days worth, like over your entire team, over the course of a year, do you think are wasted on a version of this exact problem because it happens over and over? And everybody wrongly believe that the most abandoned and ignored, neglected code in almost every infrastructure system that I've ever seen has been around deploys. We have this terrible habit of like giving it to the most junior person or an intern, like, rewrite the deploy stuff, because I get it. I get why most of us have to like roll our own deploy stuff because blah, 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 blah. So I won't get into all that. Point being, this is a mess. This is a mess and it's very common. Okay, so let's look at, a virtuous feedback loop. Let's say that, some people have been paying attention to this and fixing some of these leaky like places of badness. Engineer merges. It kicks off an automatic CI, CD, and deploy. The default expectation when she commits her code is that tests will run, artifact will be built, and it will go live within a few minutes without anyone, doing anything. No action has to be taken. That is the default. That's such a relief. that's just so nice. Okay, but sometimes things fail, right? So the deploy fails. Cool. Well, these kids are clever. They wired up their alert notifications so that anytime a deploy fails, it looks at who made the merge to master that kicked off that artifact build, and it pages that person if it broke like within an hour of them merging it. So it pages the person who merged the diff. They go, oh, whoops, typo in line 5, right? So she just quickly reverts it or edits it, commits it again. Or if it made it all the way out to prod, she looks at it through the lens of her instrumentation. It's like, what did I expect to have happen here? What is actually happening? What is the difference between the two? Does anything else look weird here, right? That was a failure. Okay, let's add some tests. Let's add some instrumentation to detect this quickly. Commit a fix. 10 minutes. One person. right? And that could be the exact same diff. But this engineer just gets on with their life, and so does everyone else, because nobody else got pulled into it because it notified the person. All right, you get the picture. Cool. Let's move on. Observability is the missing link. It is the critical first step to building and curating, iterating on these feedback loops, because you need to be able to ask these questions in a very ad hoc and granular way. You need to be able to ask questions to describe any state the system could have gotten itself into, whether or not you've ever seen it before, whether or not you could have predicted it would ever happen. You still need to be able to slice and dice and figure out what happened and take action. This is very different from monitoring. And observability, in my experience, is what enables engineers to have a few different teams. And I have tried to put software engineers on call to own their code in production a few times. It has succeeded sometimes, and it has failed sometimes. It has also failed and then later succeeded with the exact same people, the exact same company. The difference is night and day. Observability makes the difference, because if you don't have a job, you're just effectively guessing. And they're not domain experts in guessing about their infrastructure. They're domain experts in their code. So without observability, your team is just going to be guessing and iterating and just kind of stabbing around in the dark. And your feedback loops, if you get to a good place, there will be a lot of luck involved. It won't be science. Observability is not monitoring. I can't remember how many slides I have that go into detail for how well can you understand the inner workings of a system just by looking at its outputs and asking questions. And it comes from somebody trying to talk? No? Okay. It comes from mechanical engineering and control theory. So if you apply this to software engineers, right, it means, can you debug your code and its behavior just by using the tool? And can you answer new questions without shipping new code? And then that kind of implies that you understand it in advance, or you could predict it in advance. You know what you're trying to describe when you ship it, right? So if you buy these definitions of mine, then it turns out there's a lot of other assumptions and things that fall out of that. I've written about this extensively, so I'm not going to try and cover it all here. But like, it requires you to have arbitrarily wide structured events. It requires you to have one per request per hop. You have a bunch of stuff, and we could argue about this all day, but I'm right if you accept if you accept my definition, because this is what you need to deliver that definition. So I was told that some examples here would be helpful. So let's look at an example. This is an example of a problem that probably every single one of us has had. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we've hit the top of the slot.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry you were tackling all sorts of issues there. Would it be possible to move to a summary at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let's see. I'm going to skip through the examples, and my Wi-Fi is really not helpful, is it? I'm just going to slip to like the last two slides, like 1 minute, if that's all right.
It is.
Cool. And this, I'll put the slides up with the full speaker's notes, so if you want to go see it, and maybe we can do a recording or something, but regardless, the blah, 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 I'm trying to fast forward through all this. What's important here is your team, right? So if you have a team and you're trying to help figure out how to make those 4 DORA metrics move, you should look at it through the lens of these feedback loops and observability. And Liz Fong-Jones and I wrote this observability maturity model, which you can also check. And really what you should just do is find your weakest category, right? For each of these categories, we've written up a summary of, if you're doing well, these things will describe you. If you're doing terribly, these things will describe you. Figure out which one you're doing worst at, and then like look at some of the suggestions that we have for how to dig yourself out of that hole. And come on. TLDR. Why are computers hard? God. Because we don't understand them, and we keep shipping shit anyway, right? Like your system is this coughed up hairball of crap that nobody's ever really understood, and every day we ship more stuff that nobody understands on top of it, right? And then we wonder why we're sad. Well, our tools have really not taught us to debug things well, and they've really not taught us to think systematically about the process of shipping and iterating on software. These things are very fixable, and it's kind of it's kind of getting to the point where the shift from like monoliths to microservices, like there are things about the monolithic architecture that kind of were fascist, right? It's kind of like, you know, when you're looking at governance systems and the way that like the two-party system kind of arrives inevitably from a first past the post voting system. Well, having a system that's like your one app is all up or all down, and your one database is all up or all down, and you know it leads you to this like sense of fragility and like keeping people out and like this glass castle, like defended at all costs from interlopers. Fortunately, things are changing, right? And like the assumptions that are underpinning microservices are much more fundamentally democratic, and they're fundamentally like they're based on not trying to keep failure from happening, but on embracing it and making failure your friend, like building a playground out of production and building guardrails so that like your kid probably isn't going to die on it. Might break his nose, but he's not going to die.
I'm really sorry, Charity, but we're gonna have
and
to.
That's it.
That's it. Timing was amazing.
Seriously.
It's such a shame we had bandwidth issues. And
I am so sorry. Yeah, but
No.
thank you all so much, and I'll put up what I can.
Please do. We will share that around on the Twitters. I appreciate you working through the difficulties. I've got some canned applause here for you. There we go. Last talk of the day, Charity. We really appreciate you making the time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.